Husband's secret destroyed our marriage. Now he's shocked I'm actually leaving. The moment his former coworker's face shifted from sympathy to confusion, I knew something was terribly wrong. There I stood in the grocery store, rambling about how sorry I was about the company-wide layoffs that took his job too, only to watch him gently correct me. There weren't any layoffs. We just had to come back to the office a few days a week. My blood ran cold. For 5 months, I've been destroying myself, working double shifts in the emergency room, picking up every overtime hour available, coming home exhausted to a 6-year-old daughter who barely sees her mother anymore. The guilt has been eating me alive. Every night, I drag myself through the door at 9 or 10 p.m., kiss my sleeping daughter's forehead, and tell myself it was temporary, that we were surviving a crisis together as a family, that my husband was trying his best to find work after his entire division was eliminated. It was all a lie. When I confronted him that evening, he didn't even have the decency to look ashamed at first. He admitted everything like he was discussing the weather. Yes, he quit voluntarily. Yes, it was because they wanted him in the office 2 or 3 days a week. No, there were no layoffs. He'd simply decided remote work was more important than his family's financial security. I didn't think it would be a problem, he said, his voice maddeningly calm. You were already making more than me anyway. I stood there in our kitchen, hands shaking, trying to process what I was hearing. For months, I'd been tiptoeing around his feelings, watching him sleep until 9 or 10 a.m. while I left for my 6 a.m. shift, coming home to dishes still in the sink, laundry still unfolded, the same mess I'd left that morning. I'd swallowed my frustration because I thought he was depressed. I thought he was struggling. He'd talk about how guilty he felt for not contributing financially, and I'd comfort him, tell him it was okay, that something would come through soon. The guilt speeches were apparently just performance art. Then came the real kicker. He'd only been applying to fully remote positions. In 5 months of job hunting, he hadn't sent out a single application for anything that required him to leave the house. Not one. While I was working 50 to 60-hour weeks, barely seeing our daughter, he was having what essentially amounted to an extended vacation. Sleeping in, watching shows, maybe doing the bare minimum around the house when the mood struck him. You could have gotten any job, I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Grocery stores are hiring, warehouses, retail, anything to help while you look for something in your field. He had the audacity to look offended. Those jobs are beneath my experience level. Beneath his experience level? While I was picking up every available shift in one of the most stressful hospital departments, running on coffee and adrenaline, he was worried about his precious career trajectory. I've seen things in the emergency room these past months that will probably give me nightmares for years. I've held crying patients' hands, delivered devastating news to families, and had to make split-second decisions that mean life or death. And I did it all while knowing my baby girl was at home wondering why mommy was never there anymore. The worst part? All those conversations where he'd tear up about failing as a provider, the moments where he'd apologize for not contributing, and I'd hug him and tell him we'd get through it together. Every single one of those moments was him knowing he'd chosen this. He'd looked at our family, at our 6-year-old daughter, at our struggling finances, and decided his comfort mattered more. I started going through our finances with fresh eyes. We'd burned through most of our emergency savings. I'd skipped my own doctor's appointments to save money. We'd told our daughter she couldn't do dance classes this year because money was tight. Meanwhile, he'd been ordering delivery lunch several times a week. I found the receipts, $20 to $30 at a time, multiple times a week, while I was packing sad desk lunches and eating them in 5-minute breaks between patients. When I laid all of this out for him, he just kept saying he was sorry. But here's the thing about apologies. They mean nothing when the person doesn't actually understand what they did wrong, and he clearly didn't. His sorries felt hollow, automatic, like he was just saying what he thought I wanted to hear until I calmed down. Each apology made me angrier because I could see he didn't truly grasp the betrayal. I really am sorry, he'd say, but I thought we were okay. You never said anything. Of course I never said anything. I thought my husband had lost his job through no fault of his own. I thought we were facing a crisis together. I was trying to be supportive, not add to his burden. The idea that I needed to explicitly tell my grown adult husband that he should take any job during a financial crisis, not just his perfect remote dream job, never occurred to me. That should be obvious. That should be basic partnership. I told him I was done, that I'd be finding an apartment for me and our daughter as soon as possible, that our marriage was over. His response? Come on, don't be dramatic. You're just upset right now. We can work through this. Dramatic. 5 months of lies, of watching me work myself to the bone while he enjoyed his staycation, of letting our daughter suffer from her mother's absence, and I was being dramatic for wanting a divorce? He genuinely seemed to think this was something I'd just get over, like I'd cool off in a few days and we'd go back to normal. He actually said, "You'll feel differently once you've had time to process this." That's when I realized he still didn't see the problem. In his mind, he'd made a reasonable choice based on his preferences, and I was overreacting? The man I married, the man I thought I knew, would never have let his family struggle while he pursued his ideal job situation. But maybe I never really knew him at all. Maybe this is who he's always been, and I was just too blind to see it. I've been sleeping in our daughter's room on an air mattress for the past week. I can't stand to be in the same bed as him. Every time I look at him, I see those 5 months playing out differently. I see him waking up naturally while I set 3 alarms to drag myself out of bed. I see him scrolling job sites, carefully filtering out anything that isn't remote. I see him spending our dwindling savings on luxury lunches while I'm reusing tea bags. My daughter asked me yesterday why I look so sad all the time. She's 6. She shouldn't have to notice that her mother is falling apart. But she's perceptive, and she's been seeing less and less of me since May. I've missed school events, bedtime stories, weekend park trips, all because I thought we were in survival mode. All because I believed we were in this together. I'm looking at apartments every spare moment I have. It's hard because decent places in our area are expensive, and now I'm essentially trying to support 2 households on 1 income until I can get everything legally sorted. The irony isn't lost on me, but I don't care. I'll downsize. I'll find something smaller. My daughter and I will be fine, just the 2 of us. I haven't told anyone yet. Not my parents, not my friends, not my coworkers. I'm keeping it together at work somehow, compartmentalizing like I do when things get chaotic in the emergency room. But I needed to tell someone, anyone, because this anger is consuming me. I've never felt rage like this before. It's a physical thing sitting in my chest, making it hard to breathe sometimes. I'm terrified I'm going to snap in front of my daughter, and she doesn't deserve that. He's still acting like this is temporary, like I'm just having a moment, and soon things will go back to how they were. This morning he asked what I wanted for dinner when I get home from work tonight. Like we're still playing house. Like he didn't blow up our entire life because he couldn't be bothered to put on pants and go to an office 2 days a week. The thing that really gets me is how preventable all of this was. If he'd just been honest from the start. If he'd said, "The company wants us back in the office, and I really don't want to do that. Can we talk about our options?" We could have had a conversation. We could have looked at our budget together and figured out if we could afford for him to take time finding the right remote position, or if he needed to take something temporary. I would have understood if he'd wanted to hold out for remote work if we could afford it, but he didn't give me that choice. He made a unilateral decision that affected all 3 of us and then lied about it for 5 months. I keep thinking about all the times I came home exhausted, and he'd give me that sympathetic look. "Rough day?" he'd ask. "I'm sorry you have to carry us right now." And I'd feel guilty for feeling frustrated because I thought he was trying. I thought he was applying everywhere, getting rejected, dealing with the emotional toll of unemployment. The empathy I felt for him was based entirely on lies. Looking back, there were signs. He never seemed that upset about losing his job. He wasn't frantically networking or reaching out to contacts. When I'd ask about interviews, his answers were always vague. But I attributed it all to depression, to discouragement. I gave him every benefit of the doubt because that's what you do for your partner. It's what I thought he'd do for me. My coworkers have noticed I'm different. One of the senior nurses pulled me aside yesterday and asked if I was okay. I almost broke down right there in the staff room. Instead, I just said I was tired, which isn't even a lie. I'm exhausted in every possible way. Physically, from the overtime. Emotionally, from the betrayal. Mentally, from trying to figure out how to untangle my life from someone I don't even recognize anymore. I found a promising 2-bedroom apartment about 20 minutes from our current place. It's smaller than what we have now, but it's in a good school district, and the rent is something I can manage on my salary alone. I have an appointment to see it this weekend. I haven't told him. I'm not telling him anything until I have keys in my hand and a moving truck reserved. I don't trust him not to try to interfere or talk me out of it. He still thinks this is fixable, because he still doesn't understand what he's broken. Our daughter deserves better than this. She deserves a mother who isn't running on empty all the time. She deserves honesty and partnership modeled for her, not whatever broken dynamic we've been living. And honestly, I deserve better too. I deserve a partner who sees me as an equal, not as a safety net that allows them to prioritize their comfort over their family's well-being. The apartment viewing went well. It's perfect for us. Small but cozy, with a park nearby and good light in the mornings. I put in an application immediately. With my hospital income and references, I should hear back within a few days. Then it's just a matter of logistics. I've already started mentally cataloging what's mine, what's his, what we bought together. It's depressing how much of our life I'm ready to walk away from just to be free of him. He cornered me last night, wanted to really talk about everything. Kept insisting this was salvageable, that marriages go through rough patches, that he'd do better. But when I asked him point blank if he understood why I was leaving, he couldn't articulate it. He kept circling back to, I made a mistake, and I should have told you the truth. But he couldn't grasp the deeper betrayal. He couldn't see that it wasn't just about the lie. It was about the choice itself, about valuing his preference for remote work over his family's stability, about watching me suffer and doing nothing to ease that burden when he absolutely could have. I asked him what his plan was now. What was he going to do when I left and he had the support himself? He actually said he'd probably move back in with his parents temporarily until something remote comes through. He's 41 years old. We have a child together, and his backup plan is mommy and daddy's house so he can continue his quest for the perfect work-from-home situation? It would be laughable if it wasn't so pathetic. The apartment application was approved. I signed the lease tomorrow. I've arranged for movers next weekend while he's supposed to be at a job interview. I don't even know if that's real or another lie at this point. And I don't care. My daughter and I are getting out, starting fresh, building a life where honesty and hard work actually mean something. I got the keys today and didn't say a word. He still thinks I'm going to cool down and realize I'm overreacting. Even now, after everything, he's convinced this will all blow over. That in itself tells me everything I need to know about whether I'm making the right choice. Write what you think about this situation. Also, if you like this video, give a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell to receive notifications about the latest videos. See you next time. Bye-bye.